Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another video. So this is one of those videos I really don't want to make, but I have to make it. It's part of the hobby. My Japanese dragon moray eel has died, and this is actually the second dragon moray eel that has died on me. The first one died because he had a fishing hook on his body, so basically when it was delivered to me, he was already compromised and died within a couple of days even. And this one, though, baffled me a little bit, so I wasn't really sure what happened. The water quality, and other factors were all in check, so I was really, surprised why this would happen. So I wanted to put this video together to go over some possible reasons what could have killed this eel, and ultimately what I believe killed this eel. So hopefully this will help you with your moray eel keeping. Alright, so like you just heard in the intro and also saw in the title of the video, the Japanese dragon moray has died. And if you have watched a previous video of me of another Japanese dragon moray, you know that this is actually the second moray that is now dead. So the first Japanese dragon moray, he actually ended up having a fishing hook in his belly. And the aquarium store where I bought him from then went to the supplier of this eel called Sea Dwelling Creatures, and that supplier then agreed to replace the eel with this one because I paid a lot of money for the first one, $750, and a lot of people actually pay well over $1,000, so $750 was actually a really good deal for me. But yeah. That was back in May when I then got this eel as a replacement, and now here we are about 7 months later, and this eel is now dead as well. And obviously eels, they are very, very hardy animals. They usually live at least 10 years or longer, so this is something where I have to do a little bit more investigation. It's not just another fish that just has died and that's it, and I'm just going to get another one. So this is something that I really want to get to the bottom of, to figure out what happened here. And this is also why I'm making this video, so that maybe I can actually help you guys as well. So yeah, let's see, let's start with the symptoms. So it started about 2 weeks ago when I noticed that he became lethargic. So he would no longer be like moving as fast as he usually does. At some point he stopped eating as well, and one time, which was really scary, he was laying on the top of the rockwork with his head down, and he was not moving, and he was also not breathing. So his gill right here wasn't moving up, and wasn't getting bigger and smaller. So it looked to me like he was dead at that point. So when I tried to get him out, he then started to become active again. So it was like he had a stoppage of his heart, and was dead for like a couple of seconds and then came back to life. So yeah, that was a very bad sign. And what else? So his eyes also started to get a little bit hazy. So usually this happens when the water quality is really bad and the pH of the water is getting lower and lower. And what happens is the lower the pH, the more acidic the water is. And the eyes of these fish are, the outer layer of the eyes is covered with a certain slime coat, a certain coat. And if the pH is too low, the water is so acidic that it starts to eat away from that coating of the eye, and that makes the eyes white and hazy. And this was not something that was happening in my tank, so the parameters were all fine. So this is another bad sign that something else, possibly very serious, is happening here. And another thing that I noticed was he was just not hiding anymore. He was just always hanging out in the open. This is also not very common for eels. Usually they hide during the day, and when it's feeding time they come out, and sometimes when they want to swim they come out. I mean, Japanese dragon morays are more active. They come out more than other eels, but he was just hanging out right in front of the glass of the tank the whole time for days. So that was also a bad sign. So yeah, let's cover some steps that I tried to help him. So the first thing I did was I raised the temperature from 76 to 80 degrees, and I did that about 1 degree per day. And the purpose for that was to raise the temperature, to increase his metabolism, to then make him, hungrier, and hopefully that would cause him to accept food again, but unfortunately it didn't. So what I then do is the food that I usually soak in garlic, I use a stronger concentration of garlic to make this food even more yummy for him, but unfortunately he didn't accept the food either. And one thing that I noticed also then, this is the anus of the eel right here, and I noticed something sticking out. So I thought, okay, maybe he is constipated and he's trying to pass something, but it's just stuck in his intestines. So what I did was I put some Epsom salt into the aquarium. So Epsom salt is not actual salt, it's just magnesium sulfate. So if you add it to your aquarium, it's not going to raise the salinity, it's just going to raise the magnesium levels. And I added about 1 tablespoon for every 5 gallons. And the purpose for that is Epsom salt is kind of a muscle relaxer. It also helps you get over constipation and makes you pass or empty yourself out, anything you have in your intestines. And it actually worked. So he did poop out something that was in his intestines, but unfortunately, he was not getting better afterwards. So yeah, then he actually died about 2 days later. So now he's here on my wooden plank, and so now I want to try to find out, what could possibly be the cause of his death. So let's start with starvation. I mean, he wasn't eating for the last 2 weeks, but this is not uncommon for eels. One of my eels, the Viper Moray, wasn't eating for almost 3 months and was fine. So here you can see his body is actually very thick, very, you don't feel any fish bones or anything. He's very substantial. It was very heavy when I got him out of the tank as well. So starvation was not the problem at all. I also fortified his food with vitamins all the time. So that's, there was no chances of any vitamin deficiency. When it comes to his coloration, right now he's totally dry because he's been on this wooden plank for like a couple of hours. But his coloration actually looked pretty nice. So there were no signs of illness there. Just out of pure stress is having a bully in the tank. But he was obviously the main fish in the tank, the biggest of the eels. There is a sailfin tang in this aquarium, but he doesn't really go after any fish. He just makes himself big when he feels threatened to basically stop any other fish from approaching. And he kept doing that to him a lot, simply because he's so large compared to the other fish. And the banana eels, they are totally fine. So I don't think this is something, the cause of death was something that affected everyone in the tank. It was just totally isolated just to him. And old age, I don't think old age was the cause of this either, because when I received him, he was about 24 inches long. And I measured him earlier, he is actually 27 inches long. So he did grow another 3 inches, meaning he was still not an adult. I think they get up to 3 feet actually. So yeah, this is definitely a premature death. So yeah, what else? That's pretty much it when it comes to the possible reasons, except for one more. And this is actually the one that I think is responsible for his death. So this right here is a very good book for anyone who wants to keep Moray eels. Basically has multiple chapters covering how to set up a tank, what filtration to get, what your water parameters should look like, etc. So if you go through this whole book, from the first chapter on, you will eventually reach chapter 6, where you're ready to actually acquire your Moray eel. And right on the very first page, it actually mentions, something that is very concerning to me. It's about conscientious purchasing. And it talks about a method of collection that is actually against the law in a lot of countries, and that is the use of potassium cyanide or sodium cyanide or other, lethal chemicals. So what they do is the divers that work for the suppliers of the fish that will then supply the fish to the fish stores, when they go out and collect fish, especially eels like this with very sharp teeth, fish that are hiding in caves. You know, you cannot use a net when you try to catch a fish that's in a cave, because if you have any live rock in your aquarium, your net constantly gets, you know, hung up on the rocks. So what they do is they just squirt, you know, cyanide or other poisons into these holes where the eels reside, and then the eels become unconscious for a couple minutes, and then they grab them and then put them in the nets, and then that's how they basically collect them. And the problem with that is that these poisons, they actually remain in the body, so they do not get, you know, excreted from the body. You know, the liver of the eel cannot deal with the toxin. And basically, once you have an eel exposed to that kind of chemical, it's basically a ticking time bomb. He will gradually become worse and worse until he actually dies. And I think this is actually what happened here. So in the United States, it's absolutely illegal to use these chemicals, but this is a Japanese dragon moray, so they do come from Japan. And I've seen a lot of documentaries where which actually shows exactly how they catch fish and other, you know, seafood. So animals that are usually caught for consumption, and they do use chemicals. So I've seen a lot of videos where they catch octopus with chemicals. And these Japanese dragon morays are actually being consumed in Japan as well. So the reason why I wanted him, because I did see a cooking video where somebody went to a you know, fish market and had a huge Japanese dragon moray there that he purchased. So I believe this is exactly what happened here, that this fish was caught, you know, using chemicals, and these chemicals essentially, you know, degraded his body more and more. So there was really nothing I could have done in hindsight. Same with the other eel that had a fishing hook. You know, I noticed when it was too late, because how would you expect there's a fishing hook in the belly of your eel that you just you paid $750 for? So yeah, it's just really terrible. But what advice can I give you? So I would say ask your local fish store who the supplier is, and you know, how the divers of these suppliers are catching these fish. So this fish was supplied by Sea-Dwelling Creatures, and I may try to get in contact with them to let them know that even the second eel now has died within, or definitely prematurely. So it's not a good sign. I mean, like I said earlier, these eels live 10 years or more. The other ones that they have even longer. So I guess in order to keep sales up, you know, they want to use methods that make sure that the eel doesn't live as long as they usually would, and that you then buy another one, I guess. But I'm not going to do that. I may buy one if I find one from Hawaii, because in Hawaii it's absolutely illegal to use these chemicals. And yeah, unfortunately, because of the ban, it's very unlikely I'll be able to obtain one. But if I see someone, you know, locally for sale, then there's a very high chance that this eel is not going to have this poison in his body. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Unfortunately, this is not, you know, one of my more exciting videos, but this is part of the hobby. You know, my channel is called Fish Diary, so I cover everything that happens, good and bad. And this is one of those things that, you know, can happen. So yeah, thank you again for watching, and hope to see you next one. Thank you.